Claire Dawson and Lauren Foster had been best friends for years. So when Claire learned that Lauren had gotten pregnant right after a whirlwind marriage, she was genuinely concerned and looked out for her like a sister. On the day Lauren gave birth, Claire and her husband, Eric Monroe, rushed to the hospital to visit, but nothing could have prepared Claire for the bitter truth she uncovered there. The father of Lauren's newborn child was none other than her own husband, Eric. After discovering the affair, Claire didn't cry. She didn't scream. She didn't beg. Instead, she delivered a quiet, brilliant revenge. One that neither that cheating husband nor the shameless mistress would ever forget. And that, my friends, is just the beginning of this electrifying story. Dear listeners, if you love emotional, heartwarming stories, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Let's dive into a tale that will stir your heart and stay with you long after the last word. Claire Dawson and her husband, Eric Monroe, rushed to the hospital to visit her best friend, Lauren Foster, who had just given birth. Last year, Lauren had gotten pregnant unexpectedly and without being married. Claire had gently asked a few times who the father was, but Lauren would always break down in tears and refuse to say. The only thing she ever admitted was that the baby's father didn't want to be involved. She planned to raise the child on her own. Feeling for her friend and the difficult road ahead as a single mum, Claire had offered her money and delivered boxes of nutritional food. She hoped it would ease some of the pressure Lauren was under. Lauren had gone into labour the night before, while Claire and Eric were still away on a work trip out of town. The moment they heard the news this morning, they rushed back. "Claire, I thought you were out of town," said Auntie Rose, Lauren's mother, looking surprised as they entered the hospital room. Just a few days earlier, they'd all had lunch together before Claire's trip. Claire smiled gently and shook her head. "Lauren had the baby, how could I not come? I'm supposed to be the godmother after all," she said playfully. "We've always been closest." Auntie Rose beamed at that. "You sit with her, honey. I'll go grab lunch for Lauren." As soon as Auntie Rose stepped out, Claire turned her attention to her friend. Lauren lay on the hospital bed, exhausted but glowing. Despite the pallor in her face, the smile on her lips was full of joy. In the bassinet beside her, a tiny newborn lay swaddled in a blue blanket. Claire walked over quickly, eyes wide with wonder. "You did it! You're really a mum now," she whispered in awe. The little boy's face was wrinkled, but he was undeniably adorable. She leaned closer to look at Lauren, only to freeze. Lauren wasn't looking at the baby. She was looking at Eric, with eyes full of emotion, and worse, Eric was looking right back at her, as if holding back tears. He stood at the foot of the bed, hands clenched, jaw tense. His eyes locked on the baby like he was the one who had just become a father. Claire's heart lurched. A strange, uneasy feeling bubbled in her chest. Her throat tightened. "Babe?" she asked softly, forcing a smile. "What's wrong?" Eric blinked, startled, as if he'd just realized his own expression had given something away. He immediately shifted gears, forcing a chuckle. "Nothing," he said quickly. "Just seeing the baby, I don't know. It got to me a little. When do you think we'll have one of our own?" He came over to stand beside her, gazing into the bassinet with the soft warmth of a proud father. Claire watched him closely. The tenderness in his face wasn't pretend. It wasn't polite admiration. It was real. She swallowed hard, brushing the thoughts aside. Maybe he just really wanted kids. They'd talked about starting a family, but her career had always pushed that plan further down the road. She tried to laugh it off and joked with Lauren. "He's got a squishy little face now, but I can already tell. This one's going to be a heartbreaker." Lauren laughed, cheeks pink. "He looks just like his dad, so handsome." But that sweetness in her voice, that lingering gaze. She was looking at Eric, and Eric was still looking at her. That moment cracked something open in Claire's chest. A sudden chill passed through her despite the warmth of the room. The looks they shared weren't innocent. It was as if the air between them was pulling taut, a thread of something unspoken but heavy with meaning. Claire glanced down at the baby again. Maybe it was just her mind playing tricks. But was it her? Or did the baby actually look a lot like her husband? She looked at Eric and Lauren, chatting, laughing over the baby, exchanging glances thick with warmth. And suddenly, she couldn't keep pretending everything was okay. "I'm going to check if your mum needs help with anything," Claire said, forcing a smile. "Eric, stay here with Lauren, would you?" She patted Lauren's shoulder gently, pretending not to notice a thing, and stepped out of the hospital room. But the entire time, she could feel their eyes trailing her. It was as if they were waiting for her to leave. Once out in the hall, Claire faked heading toward the elevators, but stopped when she heard the hurried footsteps behind her. She peeked from around the corner just in time to see Eric slipping back into Lauren's room. His posture was nervous, his head tilted as if he were checking if the coast was clear. Claire's breath caught in her throat. 2 number. It couldn't be what she thought it was, right? She didn't go far. Instead, she tiptoed back, standing just outside the slightly ajar door. Her heart was pounding. Every instinct screamed at her to go in, but she stopped and listened. "Honey, you finally came back," Lauren cooed, her voice so saccharine it could have been laced with 10 pounds of sugar. "My love, thank you for giving me such a perfect little boy," Eric replied. Then, after a pause, his tone dropped, lower, more serious. "Next time, you've got to be more careful." Claire nearly figured it out. "So what if she does?" Lauren replied with a chuckle, clearly unbothered. "It just makes it easier for you to leave her, doesn't it? Then we can finally be together without hiding." Claire stood frozen, stomach sinking. Eric didn't answer right away. "What's the matter?" Lauren's tone sharpened. "Don't tell me you're having second thoughts. Don't tell me you actually feel bad. If you won't leave her, I'll go," she snapped. "I'll take our son and disappear, and you'll never see him again." "Don't be ridiculous," Eric hissed. "You know, it's not that simple. All of the finances are in Claire's name. She has the family backing, and per the prenup, if I divorce her, I walk away with nothing." He sighed. "Just give it a little more time. When the moment's right, I'll leave her. We'll get married. We'll have everything we ever wanted." "Married, with another prenup, I'm sure," Lauren muttered bitterly. Her voice dipped lower after that, but Claire didn't need to hear the words. Lauren, who had come into Claire's life with nothing. She was the one who helped her find a job, who shielded her when she struggled. Claire had personally arranged a cushy role at her company, with pay, but no real workload. When Lauren got pregnant, Claire had granted her paid leave without hesitation so she could rest at home. And Eric. Eric had been her college sweetheart. They'd started dating when they were just students, and after graduation, he proposed. Her father had reservations about him from the start. No family name, no real ambition, but Claire believed love was enough. Eric had been kind, devoted. That's all she thought mattered. When her father insisted on a prenup, Claire pushed through. She thought she was choosing love over status. She believed her father just didn't understand. Her father had been so furious after the wedding announcement, it nearly sent him to the hospital. But he relented, on one condition, the prenup. He even offered Eric a chance to prove himself, saying if he came up with a solid business plan, he'd invest and help him start something of his own. Eric declined. Instead, he asked to work at Claire's family company. Her father refused. He said Eric could join, but not in any leadership role. So Claire ended up shouldering all the work in the company while Eric did housework. Eric used to say he wasn't ambitious, that all he wanted was to stay by her side and build a quiet life together. Lies. She didn't go back into the hospital room. After everything she'd just overheard, it was obvious that Eric wasn't just some passive, weak-willed man. He was deceptive, dangerous even, and clearly up to something behind her back. She couldn't even begin to guess how deep it went. Confronting them in the hospital, right then and there, would be reckless. She had too much to lose to act out of rage. After leaving the hospital, Claire went straight back to her office. The first thing she did was call in her assistant, Monica Chen, a woman she'd recruited from Chicago a few years back. Monica was sharp, efficient, and most importantly, she had been through her own heartbreak. She knew what betrayal looked like and, more importantly, how to make someone pay for it. When Claire finished explaining, Monica was practically shaking. With fury, but also admiration. "You did the right thing," Monica said, nodding. "Don't blow up at them now. He's not just a cheater, he's strategic. And snakes like him don't get to slither away unscathed." Claire returned home from work to an empty house. Of course he wasn't home. He was probably still wrapped in Lauren's arms, playing house with his secret family. He hadn't even texted to ask why she'd left the hospital so suddenly. Didn't even pretend to care. It wasn't until after 10 p.m. that Eric finally dragged himself through the front door. The moment he spotted Claire sitting on the couch, he flinched, just a little, but she saw it. "Babe," he said, blinking in surprise. "You left the hospital so suddenly. I waited all day for you." His tone was rehearsed, just the right mix of concern and confusion. He stepped toward her and reached out to touch her arm. "Don't," Claire snapped, yanking her arm back. "You're disgusting. Don't touch me." Eric froze. His hand hung awkwardly in the air. "What? What's going on?" he asked, his wide eyes filled with fake innocence. But Claire could still see the nervous flicker behind them. "You came home straight from the hospital?" she asked coldly, narrowing her eyes. "You sure?" He didn't respond right away. "Go shower." Eric hesitated, then smiled, relieved. "You're right. You always are." He leaned in for a kiss, but Claire turned her face away. He moved toward the bedroom, peeling off his shirt, but his hand never left his phone. Of course, that phone. There was no doubt in her mind. He was hiding something in that phone. Something big. Eric stayed in the bathroom for almost 30 minutes. Far longer than usual. Claire didn't care. She used that time to pull up the home security footage. Monica had reminded her earlier that cameras often captured the most unexpected things. By the time Eric emerged from the bathroom, Claire was already lying in bed, pretending to sleep. He looked surprised at her coldness. Maybe even a little guilty. But tonight, instead of sulking, he got unusually affectionate. He crawled into bed and pulled her close, whispering, "Let's have a baby. What do you think?" Claire stiffened, thoughts flashing back to the newborn in the hospital, Lauren's baby, Eric's baby. "I'm tired," she muttered. "It's hot. Don't cling to me." She gently pushed him off and pointed to the nightstand. "Drink your milk before bed." It was part of their nightly routine. He had trouble sleeping, so she always made him a glass before bed. Claire gently pulled Eric's phone from under his pillow. Her hands were steady, but her pulse roared in her ears. She tried his passcode, her birthday. Incorrect. She stared at the screen, lips pressed tight. When had he changed it? Then another date popped into her mind. Lauren's birthday. It worked! Claire inhaled sharply, afraid she might just toss the phone across the room. It took a full minute before she could force herself to open his messages. The chat history with Lauren looked oddly clean. Too clean. Almost all messages seemed mundane, revolving around work or group dinners. But Claire had been in business long enough to know, the cleaner something looks, the dirtier it probably is. Without hesitation, she moved into his banking apps. Her jaw tightened as she scrolled through line after line of transactions. Nearly all of Eric's income came from her accounts, and nearly all of his spending? On Lauren. The amounts were insane. Large transfers, dates that lined up suspiciously with gifts and doctor's visits. One transfer read $52 million. Another was marked the 13th of October. It was all there, hidden in plain sight. Claire's stomach turned as she realized he'd been supporting Lauren for 2 whole years. The first transfer dated back to around the same time Lauren suddenly left her job. Before Claire had left the office earlier, Monica had warned her, if there are records of transfers, screenshot every one. We might be able to get some of that money back. It took over an hour to photograph everything. Apparently, Eric had been using her money to raise his mistress and love child. A real husband and wife team. Except the wife was unknowingly footing the bill for her replacement. She checked his digital wallet next. And there, another surprise. None of the transactions were to Lauren's personal account. Instead, every month, large transfers, sometimes hundreds of thousands, other times millions, went to a registered business account. Her gut instinct as a businesswoman told her something about that wasn't right. She copied the account details and sent them straight to Monica to investigate further. After that night, Eric, who normally followed her like a puppy, suddenly had an excuse for everything. He stopped coming into the office altogether. Claire knew exactly where he was. With Lauren, playing dad. She didn't stop him. She didn't even mention it. Instead, she hired a private investigator to follow him. Every kiss, every nursery visit, every fake smile he gave Lauren as they strolled through the hospital together. She had pictures of it all. Lauren texted Claire daily, too. Photos of the baby, updates about his milestones, asking why godmother Claire hadn't come to visit. Sometimes Claire wanted to send her a photo right back, like the one of Eric holding hands with Lauren in the parking lot. But she didn't. She was playing the long game. Eric never asked why she'd stopped responding. He was too busy. For a man who used to laze around the house with nothing to do, he was suddenly out the door before sunrise and home well after dark. At first, he made excuses. Work, meetings, late deliveries. But when Claire stopped questioning him, he stopped pretending. When he did come home, he tried to initiate intimacy, but she pulled away every time. At first, he seemed confused. Then he got bold. One night, he chuckled while brushing his teeth and said, "You know, Lauren's boy's going to be something special. Got my eyes, don't you think? We should get him a really nice gift for the 1-month party, something grand." Claire smiled faintly. "Don't worry, I'll make sure he gets exactly what he deserves." Eric squinted at her. "You don't like the kid, do you? Or is it that you want one now?" He laughed and walked toward her, arms wide. Claire jumped back so fast she nearly flipped the couch cushion. The reflex shocked even her. She hadn't moved like that since track tryouts in college. They both froze. Eric furrowed his brow. "What's going on with you lately? You keep avoiding me." "Because you disgust me," Claire thought. But instead, she kept her face blank. "I've just been thinking," she said quietly. "Watching Lauren go through the pregnancy, it made me realize I'm not ready. I'm sorry." He nodded slowly, seemingly satisfied with that answer. But Claire, she was done apologizing. Claire felt her patience thinning as she offered a lukewarm excuse. I guess I'm just feeling nervous about the whole baby thing. The explanation fit her usual personality well enough. Calm, cautious, rational. So Eric didn't question it. In fact, he let out a soft breath of relief. "Don't worry," he said gently, flashing a tender smile that made her stomach churn. He really thought that smile would work on her. It used to. Now, it just made her nauseous. That night, using the fear of pregnancy as her excuse, she suggested they sleep in separate rooms for a while. Eric acted like he was disappointed, but she could see right through it. The man was thrilled. Of course he was. Sleeping apart just made it easier for him to sneak in calls to Lauren. Lying in bed, Claire opened the home surveillance app Monica had helped her set up. She watched as Eric, now freshly showered, checked to make sure her bedroom door was shut before relaxing into the guest room. A moment later, her phone buzzed. "Eric. Hey babe, what are you up to?" She didn't reply. She knew what he was doing. He was testing whether she was asleep. Sure enough, when she didn't respond, he immediately made a video call to Lauren. Claire couldn't see the other end of the video, but she could hear every word. "Babe," Lauren purred, syrupy sweet. "How do I get lucky enough to hear from you tonight? Are you and Claire sleeping apart now?" Large transfers. Dates that lined up suspiciously with gifts and doctor's visits. One transfer read $52 million. Another was marked the 13th of October. He'd been supporting Lauren for 2 whole years. The first transfer dated back to around the same time Lauren suddenly left her job. Before Claire had left the office earlier, Monica had warned her, "If there are records of transfers, screenshot every one. We might be able to get some of that money back." It took over an hour to photograph everything. Apparently, Eric had been using her money to raise his mistress and love child. A real husband and wife team. Except the wife was unknowingly footing the bill for her replacement. She checked his digital wallet next. And there, another surprise. None of the transactions were to Lauren's personal account. Instead, every month, large transfers, sometimes hundreds of thousands, other times millions, went to a registered business account. Her gut instinct as a businesswoman told her something about that wasn't right. She copied the account details and sent them straight to Monica to investigate further. After that night, Eric, who normally followed her like a puppy, suddenly had an excuse for everything. He stopped coming into the office altogether. Claire knew exactly where he was. Lauren texted Claire daily too. Photos of the baby. Updates about his milestones. Asking why godmother Claire hadn't come to visit. Sometimes Claire wanted to send her a photo right back, like the one of Eric holding hands with Lauren in the parking lot. But she didn't. She was playing the long game. Eric never asked why she'd stopped responding. He was too busy. For a man who used to laze around the house with nothing to do, he was suddenly out the door before sunrise and home well after dark. At first, he made excuses. Work, meetings, late deliveries. But when Claire stopped questioning him, he stopped pretending. When he did come home, he tried to initiate intimacy, but she pulled away every time. At first, he seemed confused. Then he got bold. One night, he chuckled while brushing his teeth and said, "You know, Lauren's boy is going to be something special. Got my eyes, don't you think? We should get him a really nice gift for the 1-month party. Something grand." Claire smiled faintly. "Don't worry, I'll make sure he gets exactly what he deserves." Eric squinted at her. "You don't like the kid, do you? Or is it that you want one now?" He laughed and walked toward her, arms wide. Claire jumped back so fast she nearly flipped the couch cushion. The reflex shocked even her. She hadn't moved like that since track tryouts in college. They both froze. Eric furrowed his brow. "What's going on with you lately? You keep avoiding me." "Because you disgust me," Claire thought. But instead, she kept her face blank. "I've just been thinking," she said quietly. "Watching Lauren go through the pregnancy, it made me realize I'm not ready. I'm sorry." He nodded slowly, seemingly satisfied with that answer. But Claire? She was done apologizing. Claire felt her patience thinning as she offered a lukewarm excuse. "I guess I'm just feeling nervous about the whole baby thing." "Don't worry," he said gently, flashing a tender smile that made her stomach churn. That night, using the fear of pregnancy as her excuse, she suggested they sleep in separate rooms for a while. Eric acted like he was disappointed, but she could see right through it. The man was thrilled. Lying in bed, Claire opened the home surveillance app Monica had helped her set up. She watched as Eric, now freshly showered, checked to make sure her bedroom door was shut before relaxing into the guest room. A moment later, her phone buzzed. "Eric, hey babe, what are you up to?" She didn't reply. She knew what he was doing. Sure enough, when she didn't respond, he immediately made a video call to Lauren. Claire couldn't see the other end of the video, but she could hear every word. "Babe," Lauren purred, voice syrupy sweet. "How do I get lucky enough to hear from you tonight? Are you and Claire sleeping apart now?" Eric laughed. "Yeah, she's in the other room. Says she's got cold feet after seeing you go through childbirth. Some trauma thing. She wants to sleep alone for a while." Lauren gasped theatrically. "Really? So you two are fighting?" "No, not exactly," Eric said, glancing at his screen like a man trying to soften the truth. "She's just spooked. But don't worry, this is actually perfect." Claire heard the bed creak as he settled in, his voice taking on a gentler tone. "You gave me a beautiful baby, sweetheart. Thank you. I'm getting everything in place. Just a little longer, and we'll be together, officially." Claire shut her eyes, nails digging into her palms. Lauren giggled. "So when are you divorcing her already?" Eric hesitated. "You know I can't do it yet. She controls the finances. If we split now, I will walk away with nothing. But as soon as I've got things lined up, I'll drop her and we'll get married. I promise." Lauren didn't respond right away. When she did, her voice was noticeably colder. "So you are hesitating?" Eric jumped in. No, of course not. Don't say that. Don't even think about it. You know I'm doing this for us. You just need to be patient, baby." Claire could barely stand to listen another second. She shut off the monitor, tossed the phone face down on the nightstand, and forced herself to sleep, at least enough to get through the next day. The next morning, she woke up to find the house empty. Eric had left early. A bowl of oatmeal and a sticky note waited on the table. "Had to run out early. Made this just for you. Miss you already." She stared at the bowl without touching it. Then she picked up her phone and messaged her assistant to bring breakfast from somewhere else. Out of habit, she scrolled through social media. The top post? A photo from Lauren. A neatly plated bowl of oatmeal with the caption, "Love in a bowl. Breakfast made with care." She didn't even bother hiding it anymore. And suddenly, everything clicked. For the past 2 years, whenever Lauren posted cheesy quotes about love, it had always been on days Eric wasn't home. Claire used to laugh, thinking Lauren was just daydreaming about some imaginary boyfriend. Now she realized those weren't daydreams. They were warnings, challenges, mockery. Claire's stomach turned as she glanced at the untouched oatmeal Eric had made for both of them. Her hand moved on its own, flipping the bowl off the table. It hit the floor with a loud crash, oatmeal splattering across the floor. She stared at the mess for a long moment, then picked up her phone and texted the housekeeper to come clean it. By the time she reached the office, Monica was waiting with a file in one hand and a steamed pork bun in the other. "You're late," Monica said around a mouthful, stuffing the bun into Claire's hand before she could protest. Claire narrowed her eyes. "What's the rush?" Monica's answer came without a word. She handed over the file. One glance, and Claire nearly tore the report in half. If she'd had Eric in front of her at that moment, she wasn't sure she would have stopped herself from doing something violent. Earlier, Claire and Monica had discovered something big. Eric had secretly started a company of his own and had been quietly poaching clients from her family's firm. The most unforgivable part? Because Eric was her husband, many clients mistakenly assumed his business was just another extension of hers. Even though his company hadn't won any major contracts, he'd pulled in enough small ones to build a steady business. In less than a year, it was thriving. If Eric had been a little more discreet, Claire might not have caught on, and his company could have kept growing in the shadows. But the moment she began reaching out to a few clients to clarify the situation, Eric started losing contracts. That was the real reason he'd suddenly become so busy lately. What she never expected was how bold he'd become. In order to fast-track the life Lauren wanted, Eric had taken confidential internal documents from Claire's firm and handed them to her company's biggest competitor. "How did you get this document?" Claire asked, rubbing her temples in disbelief. Monica gave a wry smile. "You're not going to believe it, but Mr. Nelson from Ridgewell Corp handed it over himself." Ridgewell was their biggest rival in the market. Claire blinked. "You're serious?" Monica nodded. "He said he genuinely respects you. A woman who's taken her family's company to the top? That's the kind of competition he can admire. But shady tactics like Eric's, he wants no part of it." Claire almost laughed. Even their rival could see that Eric was a snake. And she, who had loved and trusted him for years, had been blind to it. Luckily, Mr. Nelson didn't value Eric's methods. If he had, Claire's company might have been in real trouble. The so-called trade secrets Eric had leaked weren't even the real core formulas of the company. They were surface-level summaries. The real valuable information had always been in her father's safekeeping. Not even Claire had full access to it. Back when they got married, Claire had refused to share too much with Eric. Not because she didn't love him, but because her father had insisted. He didn't trust Eric. And now, Claire realized that had been the only thing that saved her. Without hesitation, she asked Monica to reach out to Mr. Nelson again and propose a deal. If he would help her go after Eric legally, she'd be willing to offer Ridgewell a stake in one of their upcoming high-profile projects. Monica nodded confidently. "Consider it done. I'll handle the rest." Meanwhile, Eric seemed to be walking on sunshine. Maybe things were finally falling into place for him. He was upbeat, humming tunes around the house in the evenings, no longer checking in on her like he used to. Ever since she'd moved to the guest bedroom, he hadn't even tried to get her back. Most nights, he came home smiling and didn't ask a thing about her day. One night, he sprawled out on the living room couch and yelled out, "Babe, bring me some water to soak my feet." Claire froze. She stared at the man lying there, completely drunk and oblivious to the reality he was living in. Did he just demand she bring him a foot bath like she was his maid? She walked over, lifted a full glass of water, and calmly splashed it right into his face. "What did you just say?" Eric shot up, sputtering. He looked around, stunned, but when he saw the look in her eyes and the glass still in her hand, he quickly backed down. "Whoa, whoa, what's going on, honey?" Claire gave a sarcastic smile. "You asked me to wash your feet. Figured you were still dreaming, so I thought I'd wake you up." Eric's face turned pale. He looked ready to explode, but stopped himself. You must have misheard. I'd never ask you to do something like that. Claire didn't bother arguing. She just set the glass down and walked away. But as she turned the corner to the guest room, she caught a glimpse of Eric's face. He wasn't angry. He was furious. There was something dark in his eyes, a kind of hatred that sent a chill down her spine. She quickly shut the door behind her and locked it. Heart racing, she grabbed her phone and texted Monica a full update of what had just happened. Monica's reply came almost instantly. Monica, this is getting dangerous. We need to keep you out of that house for a bit. I'll book you a business trip. Let him think he's got you where he wants. We'll use it to bait him into making mistakes. Claire stared at the message and nodded to herself. Monica was right. She didn't know what Eric might do next, but now that he believed he was winning, he'd get sloppy. And that's when she'd strike. So that's why Eric had been so cheerful lately. In his excitement, he'd even dared to ask Claire to bring him water for a foot soak, because his deal with Ridgewell was finally about to go through. His little side company, the one he'd secretly built using her resources, was on the brink of success. If he could fully latch onto Ridgewell, he'd finally achieve the life Lauren had been dreaming of. No wonder the man was practically bouncing off the walls. The most infuriating part? All of the expenses for that side company had been funneled through her business accounts. Claire had no idea when it started, but somehow Eric had managed to get cozy with someone inside her company's finance department. It wasn't until recently that she and Monica took a closer look at the department head and suddenly remembered. The current financial manager was a relative of Lauren's Pat Skipelf. Claire couldn't even recall if she was a cousin or a niece, just that she was quiet and always kept to herself. So quiet, in fact, that Claire had almost forgotten she existed. The next morning, when Claire told Eric she'd be going on a business trip, she could practically feel the joy radiating off of him, though he tried to downplay it. "Babe, what should I do?" he sighed. "I've got a lot going on. I don't think I can go with you this time." Claire narrowed her eyes. "What's got you so busy lately, Eric? You're more swamped than a company owner like me?" There was a flicker of discomfort in his expression, but he quickly masked it. "Just a friend. Needed help with something. I couldn't say no, but I'll definitely pick you up when you get back. Promise." Claire nodded slowly. "Then be good while I'm away, okay? Oh, and if you've got time, maybe go check in on Lauren. I haven't been able to lately." At the mention of Lauren's name, his eyes flickered again. That small, uncertain shift in his gaze, something she'd never noticed before, now stood out crystal clear. "Check on her? We'll go together when you're back," he said, sounding irritated. She didn't respond, just smiled and went to finish packing. Monica had already arranged a minor project as the perfect excuse for this business trip. It also conveniently allowed Claire to stay out of town while they closed in on Eric. Before she left, she reminded Monica again to watch the company's accounts closely. "Don't worry," Monica said with a grin. "Per your instructions, no outgoing payments can be processed unless signed by you or me. If Eric tries anything, I'll call the police immediately. Might even help us end this sooner." That was the plan. Mr. Nelson, Ridgewell's CEO, had also agreed to hold off on filing a formal complaint until Claire officially filed for divorce. Claire nodded, deeply grateful for Monica. If Monica hadn't constantly reminded her to stay rational and not act impulsively, she might have exploded already. Now, all Claire had to do was wait. Wait for Eric to sign the deal, and then hit him with divorce papers and legal claims for the stolen funds. Just as she was about to leave, she received a video call from Lauren. Her first instinct was to ignore it. Just seeing that woman's face was enough to make her blood boil. But Monica had advised her to answer. "They're probably trying to confirm whether you're actually out of town," Monica had said. Let's not let them think you're onto them yet. Claire took a deep breath, fixed a polite smile on her face, and answered the call. Lauren, she said sweetly. What's up? Lauren appeared on the screen, lying in bed. Judging by the background, she was no longer in the hospital. You haven't come to visit me or the baby lately, Lauren pouted playfully. Not like you. She said it with that same teasing tone she'd always used when they were still best friends. It used to be charming. Now it was unbearable. Claire forced a laugh. I've been busy, working hard to earn money, so I can help you raise your son, remember? I've got a business trip coming up in Charlotte. The sarcasm in her tone was lost on Lauren, who clearly still thought Claire was as naive as she used to be. Oh, you're the best, Lauren gushed. I'm throwing a welcome party next week for the baby's 1-month mark. Will you be back by then? Claire gave her an indulgent smile. Of course I will. I've got the perfect gift in mind. I knew I could count on you. You're still my bestie. Lauren squealed and waved excitedly, just as her phone's camera tilted slightly, revealing the shoulder of a man sitting nearby. Claire froze. She knew that shoulder. It was Eric. Just as Monica had predicted, Eric was at Lauren's place. And this call was just a test. Panic crossed Lauren's face. She quickly adjusted the camera and pulled it back toward herself. Claire tilted her head innocently. Who was that I just saw? Could it be the baby's father? Lauren laughed awkwardly and shook her head. No, just someone from the neighborhood. Dropped by to check in. Anyway, you're about to leave, right? I won't hold you up. Let's catch up when you're back, okay? And just like that, she ended the call. The truth was now undeniable. She really thinks I'm an idiot, Claire muttered. Monica, watching nearby, snorted. She is an idiot. They both laughed bitterly. Monica dropped Claire off at the airport shortly after. The project was a small one. Claire's presence wasn't really needed. But the partner company was thrilled and honoured by her visit. The team worked so efficiently that what normally would have taken a week was wrapped up in just 2 days. That gave Claire more time to focus on what really mattered, catching Eric red-handed. The next afternoon, Monica called. He's in. Eric just walked into the office and went straight to finance. He met with Charlotte Voss. Not long after, a clerk brought over a purchase order and payment slip for Monica to approve. She reviewed it thoroughly. The numbers checked out, but she refused to sign. Sure enough, Eric stormed over to her office to demand why. Monica barely looked up. Whether he yelled or tried to sweet-talk her, she didn't budge. What's the rush? She said coolly. I heard from Mr. Nelson you just signed the Ridgewell contract this morning. You're already running to pay suppliers? Eric didn't answer, but Claire could already tell. His carefully built castle was about to crumble. Monica kept calmly dodging Eric's demands, while texting Claire updates in real time. How bold did this man have to be? To sign a contract with nothing in hand? Claire had to admit, her father had been absolutely right about him. Eric was never cut out for anything big. He didn't see things through. Mr. Nelson had painted a beautiful picture for Eric. Upfront payments for the Ridgewell project, paid right on schedule. Claire narrowed her eyes. Wait, Monica, what's Nelson up to now? Monica sent back a smug emoji and messaged, he upped the rates on Eric. Let's see if your boy can refuse that. Claire replied quickly, why is Nelson being so helpful? Monica, tell me the truth. What's going on between you and this man? She had long suspected there was something between her assistant and the CEO of Ridgewell. Monica didn't answer right away. Claire didn't push. Then, a few moments later, Monica called her. Eric just smashed a glass and stormed out. I bet he's about to call you. Don't answer. I've already contacted a lawyer to draft your divorce papers. Claire gave a soft and then smiled faintly, returning to their earlier conversation. So, you're not going to tell me what's really going on with you and Mr. Nelson? A pause. Then Monica sighed. You caught me. He's my former upperclassman. Just your upperclassman? Claire teased, laughing. Is he trying to date you? Monica chuckled but didn't deny it. Confirmed. Claire's tone turned mock serious. You're not thinking of jumping ship to Ridgewell, are you? Monica scoffed. Excuse me, you're the one who trained me from day one. I would never ditch this company. And you know I keep my personal and professional life very separate. Her tone was firm and clear. Claire knew Monica was still haunted by the betrayal of her last boyfriend, and had thrown herself completely into work ever since. Hearing her so resolute only made Claire trust her more. Both of them had been hurt by men. Claire didn't have any advice that would help, but she did offer her loyalty. You help me clean up this mess. I'll make sure your next raise reflects everything you've done. As soon as she hung up, Eric's name flashed on her screen. She ignored it. Eventually, she just blocked his number. A minute later, message notifications exploded across her phone. Baby? Why won't you answer? Babe, are you okay? Please call me back. I'm worried. When are you coming home? There's something I need you to check for me. Text after text. Call after call. Even video calls. Claire finally snapped and texted back. I'm busy. Stop bothering me. She finished the rest of her work in just 2 days. Then, with a little extra time on her hands, Claire reached out to her divorce attorney and wandered the city like she hadn't done in years. After all those years of working non-stop and thinking she was in love, she was finally letting herself breathe. She thought back on her marriage, how she'd believed so deeply that their love was special, unshakable. And yet, she'd been the one busting her back to build a future, while her husband played daddy to his mistress's child. Claire hadn't done anything for herself in years. Now, she was going to change that. Soon, the attorney was ready. Her return flight was scheduled. And whether it was fate or just impeccable timing, her plane landed on the exact day of Lauren's baby's 1-month celebration. Before boarding, she triple-checked the custom banner sheet had made and confirmed with the team she'd hired to bring it to the apartment complex. Everything was ready. When she landed, Monica was already at the airport waiting for her. Let's go to Lauren's place, Claire said. Monica nodded. Of course. We can't miss the gift presentation, can we? They didn't go in. They parked by the entrance and watched from a distance. Claire's hired team, a group of strong, broad-shouldered men, stood in formation outside Lauren's apartment building. Each one held a part of a massive banner that read, "The woman from Unit 502, Building 11, stole my husband. Today, I come as the real wife to offer her a place as my husband's official mistress." The smaller text below listed Lauren's name and unit number. It was noon. The apartment complex. People stopped, stared, zed, whispered, "Hey, isn't that the woman who just had a baby? Yep, guess her baby daddy's married to someone else. I always said she looked like trouble. Never worked, just dressed flashy and hung around. Figures! Look at her!" Scream fake from a mile away. Claire had hired professionals. They smiled and nodded politely every time someone asked who it was about. "That's right," one of them would say. "Lauren White, Unit 502. Stole her best friend's husband. Has a kid with him too." Claire couldn't help but chuckle. Some people began filming. Someone was already uploading it to social media. Moments later, Eric came running out of the complex. He took one look at the banner and nearly exploded. Furious, He tried to rip it down, but Claire had hired exactly the kind of guys who could shut that down fast. "That's outside the building perimeter," one said with a smirk. "Not our jurisdiction. Plus, they're not hurting anyone." "You're the husband of that mistress, aren't you?" Eric's face turned crimson. It didn't take long before people in the crowd started recognizing Eric. A few older women pointed straight at him, shouting, "That's the guy. He's been coming here every day, helping the White family with their baby's 1-month party." "I've seen his wife," another said. "She's gorgeous. What an idiot." Eric stood frozen, face flushed with humiliation and rage, surrounded by a growing group of angry neighbors shouting him down. With no other option, he stormed back into the complex, his exit only fueling more insults from the onlookers behind him. Right then, Claire's phone started ringing. She'd removed Eric from her blocked list earlier that day, and now his name was lighting up her screen. "Hey, baby! Are you back yet?" he asked, voice nervous and tentative, like he was tiptoeing through a minefield. Claire smiled coldly. "Confirmed." Claire's tone turned mock serious. "You're not thinking of jumping ship to Ridgewell, are you?" Monica scoffed. "Excuse me? You're the one who trained me from day one. I would never ditch this company. And you know I keep my personal and professional life very separate." Her tone was firm and clear. Claire knew Monica was still haunted by the betrayal of her last boyfriend, and had thrown herself completely into work ever since. Hearing her so resolute only made Claire trust her more. Both of them had been hurt by men. Claire didn't have any advice that would help, but she did offer her loyalty. "You help me clean up this mess? I'll make sure your next raise reflects everything you've done." As soon as she hung up, Eric's name flashed on her screen. She ignored it. Eventually, she just blocked his number. A minute later, message notifications exploded across her phone. "Baby? Why won't you answer? Babe, are you okay? Please call me back. I'm worried. When are you coming home? There's something I need you to check for me." Text after text. Call after call. Even video calls. Claire finally snapped and texted back, "I'm busy. Stop bothering me." She finished the rest of her work in just 2 days. Then, with a little extra time on her hands, Claire reached out to her divorce attorney and wandered the city like she hadn't done in years. After all those years of working non-stop and thinking she was in love, she was finally letting herself breathe. She thought back on her marriage, how she'd believed so deeply that their love was special, unshakable, and yet she'd been the one busting her back to build a future, while her husband played daddy to his mistress's child. Claire hadn't done anything for herself in years. Now, she was going to change that. Soon, the attorney was ready. Her return flight was scheduled, and whether it was fate or just impeccable timing, her plane landed on the exact day of Lauren's baby's 1-month celebration. Before boarding, she triple-checked the custom banner she'd had made and confirmed with the team she'd hired to bring it to the apartment complex. Everything was ready. When she landed, Monica was already at the airport waiting for her. "Let's go to Lauren's place," Claire said. Monica nodded. "Of course, we can't miss the gift presentation, can we?" They didn't go in. They parked by the entrance and watched from a distance. Claire's hired team, a group of strong, broad-shouldered men, stood in formation outside Lauren's apartment building. Each one held a part of a massive banner that read, "The woman from Unit 502, Building 11, stole my husband. Today, I come as the real wife to offer her a place as my husband's official mistress." The smaller text below listed Lauren's name and unit number. It was noon. The apartment complex was bustling. People stopped, stared, whispered, Hey, isn't that the woman who just had a baby? Yep, guess her baby daddy's married to someone else. I always said she looked like trouble. Never worked, just dressed flashy and hung around. Figures, look at her. Scream fake from a mile away. Claire had hired professionals. They smiled and nodded politely every time someone asked who it was about. That's right, one of them would say. Lauren White, Unit 502. Stole her best friend's husband. Has a kid with him too. Claire couldn't help but chuckle. Some people began filming. Someone was already uploading it to social media. Moments later, Eric came running out of the complex. He took one look at the banner and nearly exploded. Furious, he tried to rip it down, but Claire had hired exactly the kind of guys who could shut that down fast. That's outside the building perimeter, one said with a smirk. Not our jurisdiction, plus they're not hurting anyone. You're the husband of that mistress, aren't you? Eric's face turned crimson. It didn't take long before people in the crowd started recognizing Eric. A few older women pointed straight at him, shouting, "That's the guy! He's been coming here every day, helping the White family with their baby's 1-month party." "I've seen his wife," another said. "She's gorgeous." What an idiot. Eric stood frozen, face flushed with humiliation and rage, surrounded by a growing group of angry neighbors, shouting him down. With no other option, he stormed back into the complex, his exit only fueling more insults from the onlookers behind him. Right then, Claire's phone started ringing. She'd removed Eric from her blocked list earlier that day, and now his name was lighting up her screen. "Hey, baby, are you back yet?" he asked, voice nervous and tentative, like he was tiptoeing through a minefield. Claire smiled coldly. He was clearly still clinging to hope that maybe the banner had nothing to do with her. "What do you think?" she asked smoothly. "Didn't you see the banner?" "Aye, baby, I can explain," he stammered. But she didn't give him the chance. Sitting beside her, Monica gave a subtle thumbs up. "So," she asked, "the plan for his little startup company?" Claire glanced over and gave a quiet smile. "For starters, audit and the police." Monica nodded, satisfied, tapping rapidly on her phone. No doubt putting everything into motion. Technically, they'd already uncovered everything they needed, but the audit would make it official. Her phone buzzed again. This time, it was Lauren. Claire smirked and answered with a sing-song voice. "So, Lauren, how are you liking the 1-month celebration gift I arranged for you?" There was silence on the other end. Then, finally, Lauren's voice came through, strained and shaky. "Claire, I think there's been some kind of misunderstanding. Eric and I, it's not what you think." "Oh?" Claire's voice dropped an octave, still calm. "Then I guess you'll get the chance to explain that to a judge." There was a pause, then Lauren's voice climbed in panic. "What? Claire, are you suing me?" "Of course I am," Claire said, tone sharpening. "You've been receiving money from Eric for 2 years. That money? It's marital property. I have the right to sue for recovery." "You can't do this," Lauren shrieked. "You're rich. Why are you doing this over a few dollars?" Claire pulled the phone away from her ear slightly, letting Lauren's screeching hit open air. When the noise finally quieted down, she returned the phone to her ear. "Because, sweetheart, my money is not meant to support my husband's mistress." And with that, she hung up. She texted the housekeeper to come immediately, and together they packed up every last one of Eric's belongings. Designer suits, watches, accessories. She gave some of them to the housekeeper, the rest she planned to sell. Right on cue, Eric burst into the apartment. He froze in the entryway, eyes wide in disbelief as he saw his things being packed. "What the hell do you think you're doing?" he shouted. Claire didn't flinch. She sat calmly on the couch, watching him with cold detachment. "What do you think I'm doing?" she replied. "I'm divorcing you." Eric's jaw dropped. "You're divorcing me? You? Based on what?" "Based on the fact that you cheated on me while we were married with my so-called friend." His face turned red. "That's not true," he snapped. "You can't just accuse me of something like that." Claire raised her brows. "You think I'm making it up?" She reached down, pulled out a thick envelope, and tossed it onto the table. Inside were printed photos, the kind only a private investigator could provide. He hesitated, then slowly picked up the envelope. His face turned ghost white as he flipped through the pictures. For a long time, he said nothing. You had me followed?" he finally managed, voice shaking. "I had you watched," she corrected. "Because you gave me a reason not to trust you." She stood up, her eyes never leaving his. "Look at yourself, Eric. Do you honestly believe you deserve my trust?" Claire let out a cold, short laugh. "What, Eric? You really think I don't know that baby Lauren just had is your child?" She tossed a folder onto the table. "The DNA test is right here. Face it, there's no way you can lie your way out of this one." Eric straightened up, fists clenched, anger flashing in his eyes. He stared at her for a long beat before finally blurting out, "Fine, I cheated, but you pushed me to it." Claire raised an eyebrow. "Ever since we got married, your whole family treated me like trash," he barked. "They never let me be involved in any of the important work at your company. At the office, everyone just saw me as the guy you brought home. Your damn charity case. I had dreams, you know, ambitions, and your family crushed every single one of them." He was shouting now, pacing back and forth. "It's your fault I never got to build something of my own. But now I have. I'm finally about to close deals with real clients, real partners." "Losing me? That's your family's mistake." Claire smirked. "You mean that pathetic little knockoff company you started using the money you stole from mine? That company wouldn't have survived a month if it wasn't leeching off my contacts. And now? You can't even pay your vendor. You do realize that if you can't deliver, Lexington Holdings will sue you for breach of contract, right? You'll be bankrupt by next week." Eric's face went white. You knew about the contract? You mean the one you signed without reading the fine print?" Claire laughed, crossing her arms. "Let me guess. You didn't realize the penalty clause until just now. Must suck to realize you were never the smartest one in the room." He looked like a man unraveling. "You set me up. That contract? It was a trap." "A trap?" Claire echoed, almost amused. "I didn't set anything up, Eric. I didn't lift a damn finger. You were so eager to prove yourself, to get out from under me. You rushed into everything on your own. I just let you." The housekeeper stepped into the room, a bit nervous, clearly unsure whether to proceed. Claire smiled at her. "Go ahead. Load everything into the moving truck. Oh, and make sure it gets delivered to Willow Crescent, Building 11, Unit 502. Eric's face twisted. "What the hell are you doing?" "Sending your things to Lauren's place," Claire said simply, her voice like ice. "This is my house. You're not welcome here anymore." He lunged toward her. "You don't have the right." "I have every right," she snapped. "You're not even in the security system anymore. Your fingerprints are deleted. You won't get past the front gate, let alone my door." She picked up her phone and, right in front of him, called building security. "Yes, hi. Please come escort a former resident off the premises. Yes, now." Eric stared at her, stunned. "You can walk out, or they can carry you out," Claire said, calm as ever. "Your choice." His face contorted with rage, but she didn't even blink. As expected, his pride got the better of him. He hissed a string of curses under his breath and stormed out on his own. Shortly after, her lawyer texted. The divorce papers were ready and had already been delivered to Lauren's apartment. If everything went according to plan, Eric would show up at the clerk's office the next day to finalize the filing. Monica called right after that with more good news. The company's internal auditor had spooked their crooked accountant so badly that he confessed everything. He claimed Eric had orchestrated the entire operation and handed over all the evidence. Claire could finally see the end in sight. Everything they owed her, every dollar, every betrayal, was about to be paid in full. By the next morning, just as her lawyer predicted, Eric reached out. He wanted to meet to finalize the paperwork. If it hadn't been necessary for her to be there in person, Claire wouldn't have bothered. But she showed up because she never left things unfinished. At the courthouse, Eric looked like a shell of himself. Pale, unshaven, exhausted. He stared at her like he didn't recognize the woman standing in front of him anymore. "Claire," he murmured, his voice hoarse, "you're really going to go through with this?" She gave him a deadpan look. "We're past that point." He swallowed hard, like he wanted to say more, but she wasn't interested. While he'd been busy building a future with another woman, stealing from her in the process, Claire had been preparing to burn his little empire to the ground. Fortunately, the attorney assured Claire that all funds used in the transaction could be reclaimed. But the revelation stung. It proved just how little oversight she had over their financial matters during their marriage. Apparently, most of Eric's income from that sham of a company had been funneled straight to Lauren. As the lawsuits moved forward, both Eric and Lauren were hounded by legal notices and growing pressure. Desperate, the two began calling and texting Claire, begging for forgiveness. But Claire wasn't a saint. She wasn't some doe-eyed damsel with a bleeding heart. Why should she forgive them? That afternoon, as Claire left her office building, she spotted a familiar figure standing near the main entrance, Lauren's mother. "Claire, sweetheart," she began, voice trembling. I know everything now. What Lauren did, she was wrong. I've scolded her. I swear I have. I don't know how that sweet, naive girl could do something like this." Claire said nothing. "I know she hurt you, but you two were such close friends." And now, Lauren's depressed, completely broken. Can't you find it in your heart to forgive her? Please? And with that, the woman dropped to her knees, right there on the sidewalk. Passers-by immediately turned to look. A plainly dressed older woman kneeling before a younger woman in heels and a fitted coat. It looked bad. Claire could feel the heat of the stares, but she didn't flinch. "Mrs. Evans, please stand up," she said firmly. "You're embarrassing yourself." Apparently, Claire had misjudged the woman in the past, thinking she at least had a shred of dignity. Clearly, she didn't. "I'm not getting up," the woman sobbed. "Not until you agree to let this go. Why does a successful woman like you care about money from someone like Lauren? Let it go, please." Her voice grew louder, shrill and piercing. People began whispering, judgment thick in the air. Claire's expression darkened. Enough was enough. "I called you Mrs. Evans out of respect," Claire said sharply. "But if you don't stand up right now, I won't be so polite." "Young lady, what are you going to do? Hit an old woman?" Mrs. Evans shouted, loud enough for the entire block to hear. Claire's hands clenched at her sides, teeth grinding. The crowd was growing. The whispers, the stares, it was all snowballing. Finally, she snapped. "What exactly do you want me to do, Mrs. Evans?" Claire's voice rose. "Your daughter seduced my husband and gave birth to his child. I didn't scream, I didn't beg. I walked away and filed for divorce." I gave her everything she ever wanted. So what more do you want from me now? My dignity too. Tears welled in her eyes, but Claire held her ground, fury trembling just beneath the surface. I treated your daughter like my sister. And this is how she repaid me? You think your family can stomp all over me, and I'll just smile and say thank you? Mrs. Evans looked stunned. She hadn't expected Claire to cry, or speak up at all. She stammered, unsure what to say. You think I'm making this up? Claire snapped. You know damn well that baby is Eric's. You all do. If you want to deny it, be my guest. I'll see you in court. We'll get the paternity test right there in front of a judge. Just then, Monica arrived downstairs, saw what was happening, and stepped up to stand beside Claire. How dare you show your face here? She barked at Mrs. Evans. Your family wrecked hers, and now you want her to forgive you? You're lucky all you're getting is a lawsuit. The bystanders, now understanding the truth, turned on Mrs. Evans. They shouted, jeered, pointed. Some even filmed on their phones. Realizing she had no sympathy left to manipulate, she scrambled to her feet and fled the scene, disappearing into the crowd as insults rained down behind her. Claire exhaled slowly. Monica, she said quietly, add this incident to the legal report. I want every ounce of their mess on record. A month later, Claire received the official divorce decree. Meanwhile, since Eric's fake company had failed to deliver on its contract, Lexington Holdings filed a formal lawsuit. Having already been sued by Claire, Eric now faced multiple charges. He tried every tactic: texts, calls, desperate voicemails begging for her to forgive him, to help him. Claire didn't reply. Not once. Only when the court ruled that Lauren and her family had 3 days to vacate the apartment did Claire agree to send someone to meet them. Even after a full month of postpartum rest, she clearly hadn't made the slightest effort to care for herself. Her hair was a tangled mess, and she sat on the bed like a ghost of the woman she used to be. When she saw Claire enter, her eyes burned with resentment. You threw me out, Claire, Lauren hissed. Where am I supposed to go now? Claire didn't blink. That's not my problem. Why don't you ask Eric? Of course, Eric was no longer in any position to help. After transferring assets illegally, he'd been arrested. Laura not only had to vacate the property, but she was also ordered to return every penny and every luxury gift Eric had given her. So when Claire mentioned Eric's name, Lauren's hatred only deepened. I regret ever getting involved with a heartless bitch like you, she snapped. You treat your so-called friends like enemies. Friends? Claire raised a brow and let out a short, biting laugh. You think you were ever my friend? She glanced around the now barren apartment. It looked like everything of value had already been sold off. I'd suggest you pack up soon, Claire added coldly. If the court has to send someone, you might end up detained. With that, she turned and strode out, her team following behind her. In her 30 years of life, marrying Eric and trusting Lauren were probably Claire's greatest failures. But for those two to scheme against her? That had been their biggest mistake, because Claire was the kind of woman who'd drown her enemies with a smile, making sure they never surfaced again. She heard that, with nowhere left to go and no savings left to cling to, Lauren and her mother had no choice but to pack up and move back to their hometown. They'd decided to wait for Eric's release from prison. Yes, prison. Eric had been sentenced to 2 years and 6 months for financial crimes. There was no way he could repay Claire the money he'd stolen, so prison was the only option. Knowing that those two were now broke, disgraced, and defeated, it was the most satisfying thing Claire had felt in years. To top it off, the viral banner stunt had made her a minor celebrity online. Netizens called her clever, ruthless, and empowering. The buzz boosted her company's profile, and her stock value had climbed noticeably. Who would have thought? All it took was cutting off a fake friend and kicking a toxic man to the curb, and life had never been better. And Claire? She was more than satisfied with that. Dear listeners, today's emotional love story comes to a close. If it touched your heart, please don't forget to like, share, and leave a comment. We'd love to hear your thoughts. And if you haven't already, subscribe to our YouTube channel to support our team in bringing more tender, unforgettable stories to life. Wishing you endless joy, gentle days, and a heart always filled with love. Until we meet again in the next story, take care and stay inspired.